Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Charity Charge Show. Today, I am with Valieria Koss. She is the executive director of the RennerVation Foundation, and they are doing amazing work for the foster youth of all of America. But their work is also specifically out there in Nevada, and they are doing some great work. Just got done with their big summer camp push, and they have some exciting stuff in the pipeline this fall. Valeria, thank you so much for coming on the show. And tell me a little more about the foundation.
Grayson, thank you so much for having me on today. I feel so honored to be able to do this work and be part of the RennerVation Foundation. Today, you may hear me speak a lot about origin stories. And so I am particularly very excited about the origin story of the RennerVation Foundation. So, if you think about a child, every child, regardless of where they grow up, they're deserving of a childhood filled with growth, joy, and belonging. And that really is the heart of what we do at RennerVation Foundation. So, we primarily focus on our foster and at risk youth. We serve all throughout Nevada. But honestly, when you think about the foster care system, we could have a child anywhere. There could be a child in Texas and they have a grandmother that is in Nevada. So they're coming on over and we're going to provide all those services, supports, and that sense of community. And so our founder, Jeremy Renner, so again, origin stories. So Jeremy is just an incredible human being and has always been very philanthropic in Northern Nevada. But after his accident, he really wanted to give back in a greater way. And his incredible sister, Kim Renner, is actually a deputy director down in Los Angeles County working in child welfare. And so she has this vast experience and knowledge working with the foster care system. Our vice president, Shayna, is based in Las Vegas. She works for DCFS, Department of Children and Family Services, and she actually focuses on rural Nevada. So their three powers combined created this amazing foundation. And what's really powerful is that we didn't want to replicate or duplicate services. There was over 250 initial meetings to ensure that we were filling a gap, not just duplicating services. And our heart is really in collaboration.
That's amazing. And we talk about on the show all the time where nonprofits, one of their main roles is filling gaps within the service industry where either the government or the for profit institutions are not really, uh, you know, fulfilling those needs. What gap are you seeing the foundation fill, and how has it maybe changed and grown over the years?
That's such an amazing question because there's a lot of service providers in the state and local are always doing lots of things to pour into it. But we really noticed that huge gap is happening when there's not multiple touch points. There's not that sense of
Yeah.
community. So we have a variety of programs, some of which are our summer camps, which is no cost to any of our foster youth or at risk youth that are attending.
Amazing.
Everything's provided their sleeping bags, their pillows, their towels, everything. And they get to have this incredible week long experience overnight and they get to be with youth that are just like them and mentors that have this lived experience and want to
Mm.
be there and create this. We also have Christmas on the Comstock. But really, we started to notice it's those youth that are aging out of the foster care system. There's no safety net. And what's really scary for a lot of people is you think about it, you turn 18. Now in July, we have a new law that was passed that up to the age of 21, foster youth can re enter the system, but a lot of them are jaded. And you think about no safety net, you're just out of the system. You have to get a job, you have to find housing. You have no one to call when you're even just having a bad day and have a question about what do I do next? And so that's really we'll talk more about our Pave Your Way program. That's where we noticed we could really step in, collaborate, and provide this additional support.
And I'm sure as well the stigma that's associated as you become an adult and the way that the societal shift and how they view you and view what your responsibilities are. I'm sure that is also a burden that is heavy for a lot of those foster kids that are aging out of the system. How are you seeing this Pave Your Way program, foster that community for this group that you're identifying as kind of at a higher risk?
So what's amazing is it's wraparound services and support. So it's everything from financial literacy to how to access benefits to even having fitness classes or
Amazing.
doing meetups. And we were just talking with the team. October's right around the corner. What would be more fun than doing zombie paintball? It's really just building that sense of community, but also those skills. And we meet each individual where they're at. So it's not a prescriptive program where A through Z. It's really where are the areas of need. Maybe it is financial literacy. Maybe it's getting a job. Maybe it's keeping a job. Maybe it's transportation. But what makes it so unique for us is we have housing. So in the fall, we are going to lease 4 one-bedroom apartments for our Pave Your Way clients, and there's such a low barrier to entry. They just need to be willing and wanting to work with our case manager and be able to go through the steps. They don't even need a job. They don't even need to be enrolled in college or an apprenticeship or trade school. They just have to have that desire to want to work with us to start paving the way for a better life for them.
And you mentioned the kind of low barrier to entry. How are you developing your program to encourage students to kind of engage and or the foster kids to engage and kind of want to grow in themselves within the program?
I think that really is at the heart of the collaboration. Being able to also have our multiple touch points. So this is the first time we were able to hold teen camp. With teen camp, our Pave Your Way program is age 16 to 24. So you
Wow.
have
Okay.
to get that buy-in. I taught high school special education in New Orleans, and those teens were not just gonna open their arms and say, "Come here, like, Miss Cost, we love you." No, you have to be transparent, authentic, and you have to engage them. And so we already started working with them. We go out to a lot of community events. We're partnering with lots of incredible other organizations doing similar work out here. And then you start to show up. And when they see you show up, that then creates a sense of comfort, a sense of, "Okay, I think I can trust you," and then it's that camaraderie. It's that shared experience of having even zombie paintball. It's opportunities for them to say, "Okay, we're learning in an experiential format." So it's not just sitting in a classroom, going book by book, word by word. It's we're getting to go out into the community, we're getting to experience things together and really buy into this program.
From what it really sounds like to me, it's like the kind of the goal is that community side and providing kind of equitable access to these experiences that you may traditionally get within a family environment for the people within your programs. And then through that as well, your organization, it really feels like maybe it's a really strong support network where specifically within Nevada, where you mentioned oftentimes, especially as they age out of a system, there isn't one for them and they
Mhm.
can maybe slip through the cracks. So, as you've kind of seen the program grow, how has the summer camp evolved? And I know y'all are up to 2 camp sessions as well now. How has that been? And what was it really like? It's kind of exciting time coming off the summer camps.
So we talk about a transformative experience, and you may say, "Okay, Val, what are you talking about? 1 week of summer camp, everybody's experienced summer camp, hopefully, but a lot of our youth have not." And so our first summer camp is youth focused, and that's in Tahoe. It's gorgeous. Most of our youth have never seen the lake, and yet
Mm.
they live in Northern Nevada, they live in Vegas. It's watching their eyes is like experiencing the lake again for the first time. And we make it very fun, engaging, but we really focus on PCEs, so positive childhood experiences. Because the more positive childhood experiences you can actually provide to a child, it starts to negate all of the previous trauma. You can't ever erase all of that trauma, but you start to build up their self esteem, their confidence, their sense of belonging. And that then enables them and empowers them really to be able to foster connections and to start to expand and be ready for new experiences. And so that's really at the heart of our camps. And we work with Vitality and Raise the Future. So we have lots of mental health support. We do training for our cabin counselors and all of our programming staff, as well as our own team, really making sure that we are there to meet each of our youth and our campers where they're at.
And just for our audience out there listening, can you maybe explain a little bit more about the foster system within Nevada, the gaps that you're filling, and also the partnerships and collaboration that you have with those the services that you mentioned that are already provided, and kind of how that dynamic with the RennerVation Foundation and the services that are in place kind of play out?
Absolutely. honestly, RennerVation Foundation now at this point, we serve birth all the way to 24.
Okay.
What's incredible is that being a 501(c)(3) nonprofit and diversified funding, we can actually change or alter that based on the needs of our community. If we have a 25-year-old that comes to us and says, "Hey, here's where I'm at," there's nothing to preclude us from saying, "No, I'm sorry." Like, that's a cutoff point, you can't come in. We can still have a conversation and see how we can support. And I think we work very closely with DCFS and Washoe County and the child welfare system. And so they've got amazing supports. But again, we're able to then do this birth through 24 and provide Christmas on the Comstock, camp, all these other opportunities. We partner with museums. But then we also have some amazing other nonprofits that we're collaborating with. So Eddie House is phenomenal, and they provide that transitional housing for unhoused youth. And they just had a new 36 unit apartment building built. And so what's great is we can cross collaborate. They may have youth that they say, "Hey, actually they're ready for a one bedroom apartment." Meanwhile, we have some youth that we're going to turn and say, "Hey, they're not ready to be completely on their own. They need a little more support, guidance, care, oversight. Let's cross refer. Let's work together." We have boosted diplomas, phenomenal, where they actually have tutoring and support. And again, all these services we all are providing are at no cost to the individual. And that I think is at the heart of what we do, because usually a lot of our foster youth, they are facing barriers of, okay, you have to meet XYZ criteria, or they don't even know where to look. So the more we
Mm.
can collaborate and build wraparound services, same with UNR. We're working with Foster the Pack, which is an incredible program for our foster youth that attend the University of Nevada, Reno. Working with Truckee Meadows Community College, they have a similar program and a lot of apprenticeship and trade programs. And so, really, the more we can cross refer and create that community, that safety net, that is how we fill the gaps. And that's how we ensure every foster youth has the opportunity to thrive.
And I'm sure something within this whole kind of ecosystem that is really hard to measure is what does success look like? So, how within your organization do you kind of breed it to build up the people within your system and not have to have these kind of metrics and things that they have to be enrolled in, and how are you measuring that success within your organization and say like, okay, we did a good job here, or maybe something we need to tweak this and make this process a little bit easier.
So, honestly, you can't run an organization and be successful unless you're data driven.
Gotcha.
So we focus a lot on qualitative and quantitative data collection, and so we're still fairly new. So I'm super excited when we reach a 5-year mark and I can go back and I can comb through the data and say, "Look how far we've come." And it makes the annual report a lot better too when you can really keep showing year-over-year returns, especially on investment. Our donors are our investors. And so what we're focusing now is we get the qualitative, we get a lot of great focus groups and anecdotes from our campers, from our different events, from our guardians, our foster families. We also do a lot of surveys. And then we're really focusing again on those PCEs, those positive childhood experiences. And there's several categories that we're really drilling into. And a lot of those do have to do with their participation in school, their ability to try new experiences, um, their desire to get a job, retain a job. That's why Pave Your Way is fairly new too, but I'm very excited to really start looking at that data once we've had several years of it, because we're going to be able to see, okay, how many youth did we empower to get a job, retain a job, go and access higher ed or an apprenticeship or trade program? How many collaborative partnerships have we established and retained? So, really, that's the data I'm excited about to really start to dive into.
That's amazing, and it's so interesting. It'll be really interesting because that's also the data the main thing you're driving people towards is that strong community,
Mhm.
and like the idea of it, trickling into a strong job foundation. You're building these skills that allow you to have a successful life. I think that's a really innovative way to approach it, and also a more humanizing way as well. Like you said, meeting the youth where they're at, and then building up their foundation, so the other stuff becomes a lot easier. That's amazing. And well, tell me a little more about your background. So I know you've been the executive director of the foundation, I think a little over a year now. What is that correct?
A little closer to 6 months.
Okay, a little close to 6 months.
But Grayson,
Amazing,
in
and
nonprofit world, a month is a year, so basically we're there.
100%, 6 years even.
There we go.
Tell me a little more about your background within the nonprofit space and kind of your journey getting you to where you are now.
Absolutely. So I mentioned in the beginning, I have a little bit of a obsession with origin stories. And so one of the things that really, really attracted me to this role and this organization was that commitment to ensuring every child has that opportunity to experience a childhood filled with joy, growth, and belonging. So I was much more likely to be a statistic than a success. I grew up in a very turbulent environment, had an amazing, still have an amazing mom who sacrificed so much to keep us safe. But one of my earliest childhood memories is hearing a bullet, and I was probably 3 years old, and my mom throwing me on the floor and laying on top of me saying, "Don't move," because the neighbor in the duplex decided he was going to start firing guns. And so, really, I think you have an opportunity, and I've been blessed to be able to live around the country and really work with some amazing individuals that you're faced with a choice. You can either let traumatic experiences change you, or you have the opportunity to say, how can I give back in a greater way and really show up for those who also showed up for me along my path? So, again, testament to my mom, she was also a big believer in it doesn't matter how little you have, you can still do good and help others. So she was constantly just dragging me along to, we're going to the food bank, we're going to pack up food, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I'm going to put you in Head Start. You're going to get a great start to your education. You're going to do Girl Scouts. She looked for every single opportunity because she was not going to let me not have that sense of community. And so I really was so fortunate because I watched a lot of my friends in the neighborhood, talk about gun violence. A lot of my friends in the neighborhood didn't make it past middle school. And so really being able to find a way to give back in a greater level. So I did, the academic route, even though I was told I would be much better off going to community college or just forget that, just go get a job. I was a straight A student. So when you have a guidance counselor in high school tell you that, definitely makes you think twice. But I had another guidance counselor that pulled me in her office and said, "Do not listen to a word she says. Let's start getting you scholarships, FAFSA, all this stuff." So I was able to go to UC San Diego, amazing experience, and then went to Pepperdine School of Public
Uh-huh.
Policy to get my master's degree in public policy. And while I was at Pepperdine, I actually joined AmeriCorps and did the Jumpstart program, which was early education. And so that really hit home as that early intervention, that's the
Mm,
game changer. Watching these 3-year-olds come in from Los Angeles, getting to go to this premier private preschool,
mm,
they're gonna outpace their peers so vastly, but not everyone gets that opportunity. So then I just said, "All right, I'm all in. Let me join as many organizations as I can. Let me move around the country, and let me figure out how I can learn from the communities I'm serving in and the people around me and find my way to give back." So then that took me on a really cool trajectory that you can just, like, pull a map out and say, "Okay, where did Val go for this year or these 2 years?" And so some of my greatest memories are really working with Teach for America, and
mm,
I taught high school special education in New Orleans, and that really brought back the understanding that mental health is so critical to the work we're doing because a lot of my high school students, they were little children when Katrina hit, and they didn't get a
mm,
lot of those mental health supports and services, and so then put them in an academic setting and they're struggling. They're struggling not just academically, but they were struggling just to find a way to express the emotions and trauma they had lived through. And so I still go back to New Orleans every couple years to see the students and families because you build a
amazing.
community. You don't go in and tell them, "Well, I'm going to tell you what you need." You say, "Let me be a part of this. Let me understand what we're working through and let's find supports and services. What do you need? What do you want?" And so I think it's just been awesome, and boys and girls clubs, I was a senior director there in Palm Beach County, Florida, and then Head Start here in Northern Nevada, which was that full circle moment of being in Head Start and then being able to be a Head Start director. And then even was an assistant dean at University of Nevada, Reno, where I got to work on the first year experience, their orientation programs, and all those incoming first year students that had just lived through COVID. So I would love to spend hours with you, Grayson, telling you the incredible lessons that I have learned having been in so many of these phenomenal organizations. But I think it all comes back to that origin story. It's that desire, that sense of purpose. How do I give back in a greater way to all those who gave to me to make sure I was a success and not a statistic?
And it really sounds like the organization you're currently at allows those youth to build that strong foundation. So whenever they're in the school, in the classroom, in a job, it allows them to have that community that's behind them. So it makes all of that stuff so much easier. So
Exactly.
completely full circle. That's amazing. Well, for our nonprofit listeners out there and the leaders that maybe they're in your shoes, they're in their first position, and or maybe trying to grow their nonprofit. What is maybe the biggest lesson that you have learned? Let's start with maybe your current position at RennerVation Foundation. What's something that over these 6 months, maybe your perspective has shifted.
Oh, Grayson, I love this question. So, given especially in the nonprofit space, especially at RennerVation Foundation, working with foster youth requires deep compassion, trauma informed care, and a consistent and safe presence. But the biggest lesson I've learned is how to balance empathy with accountability.
Mm,
And I'm just going to say that again because it's so important is balancing empathy with accountability. And what does that look like? Empathy can't replace structure. So you have to have structure, you have to have safeguards. We're nonprofits. There are so many rules and guidelines that we have to do to stay in compliance and protect that 501(c)(3) status. So you cannot replace structure no matter how big your heart is. But team care is also youth care. So if your team is burnt out and they feel like they are not supported and they don't have time to take care of their own mental health and wellness, then you've lost the empathy piece. You can have all the structure in the world, but if you have a burned out team that their heart isn't in it anymore, you've now lost empathy. And I also really feel like progress is nonlinear. So you are going to have times where you are just chugging along and everything is going great and that data's coming in and the financial reporting is solid. And then you have something like COVID. And
mm.
so now you have to pivot and restructure and you have funders that you have to report to, but now you can't deliver these programs in the way you promised. So I think you really have to continue to work on yourself as a leader and really build that support and trust within your team of we can get through anything as long as we don't lose empathy and accountability.
I want to dive a little more into what that looks like. And also, I think I'd love to explore if you think that maybe empathy enables accountability to be stronger, and that structure and accountability also lessens that burnout and lessens that load. So, within your position, how have you maybe helped create that structure from the top down that enables your team and your organization to continue working on that mission every single day, even on those days where it's like, man, this is really difficult.
I'm going to take you back to being a teacher. So something I loved with Teach for America is we talk a lot about backwards planning. So you know your deliverables, you know what you have to deliver by the end of the quarter, the end of the year. And so you really backwards plan from that. So you have your checkpoints throughout the year. Okay, if we have the annual report, we know we need X amount of data by this date. We have 2 grant reports that are due because our funders need quarterly reports. So you build that into your plan. But then you focus on the empathy around your team. So all of your team members are going to come with their own experiences, their own opportunities to grow, and then their own ways that they excel. And so I really make sure I have an open door policy is that we have some of my team members they need a weekly check-in. Even if it's for 5 minutes, they just want to make sure they're still on track or they have a question. Then I have other ones that are like, "Nope, monthly is good." And then I have some that no, quarterly is good, Val. Like, I'll talk to you throughout the day. I don't need to sit down and have a meeting. But then monthly, we actually do our own accountability report. So prior to the board meeting, I do an executive director's report. So what that looks like is each of my team members has deliverables and owns a certain segment of our organization. And so they will compile their own specific program report. And then I review it, ask them questions, make sure everyone feels comfortable. And then I formalize the executive director report before it goes to the board and our CEO. And what's so important about that is that's the accountability piece. We know all our deliverables for the entire year, and so we can start monthly just tracking, like, are we on track or have has the train gone off the rails? Where are we at here? And if we are, how do we course correct? And it also provides an opportunity to the board to skim through something quickly. And then at the board meeting, I do Val's top 5 at 5. So what that looks like is I actually highlight the top 5 things that I want the board to be aware of, because we understand boards, all of you out there in the nonprofit space, your board members are busy. They're busy like you, and yet they're part of the board because they believe in the mission. And so they also trust that you will be accountable for anything that you're promising to deliver and upholding that mission. So we try to make it very palatable for our board so that they really can. And then if they have, you all have 1 or 2 board members that they're gonna go fine tooth comb through that report, and then
We all know.
I actually love them. I think, they really help with the accountability piece, and they want to know. Never feel like you're being grilled. It's they want to know. They are that involved. They want to be a part of this. And so I love that because then if they did pull out something that wasn't in the top 5, they can say, "Oh, wait, I have more questions about this," and now you can do that in an open forum.
There's two really important things I'd like to pull out from there. So, one, how do you build that trust and enable the honesty coming from your team and your people that you have boots on the ground to make sure that you're getting an accurate representation of the work happening within the organization? And how have you built and fostered that in your time at the foundation?
So that's, 2 parts to that. So I had a former supervisor that I just love this one. I'll give another little, like, word of wisdom. Trust but verify. So you build that trust with your team, but then you're always gonna say, "Okay, great. I have access to all the different systems that we use." So if I have someone who's claiming, "Hey, I served 150 people at this event," I can easily go through and say, "Is it really 150? Did we really track all those RSVPs? Great. Do I have to do that for every single one? No, the longer you're with your team, it's a quick check. You don't have to go through step by step by step because you know the caliber of their work. But we also work really hard on my first 90 days in any leadership role. I just want to get to know the team. I don't try, especially in the first 30 days, I don't make any vast changes because I need to understand the team. I need to understand their dynamics, how they work, what their communication styles are. That then allows an opportunity for us to grow instead of just coming and saying, "Hey, this is how I do business. Y'all better get in line." That's not going to work. That's not a fully functioning team. And you can't do this hard work or this heart work without having that team be able to be open and honest. And you can tell when someone's having a bad day. And you can give them an opportunity to say, "Hey, you want to go chat? You want to go for a walk? Or do you just need like 15 minutes of space?" And I think that's what really makes us be able to do this well.
That's an amazing answer, and thank you so much for that. And I also wanted to, from that previous answer as well, dive into that board dynamic in the relationship. And you have had many experiences in different organizations. How have you seen yourself develop that partnership with the board? And what are some tips and tricks that you would recommend for both board members and enabling their organization to run successfully, and also on the executive leadership team, and communicating with their board and making sure that they're bought in, because these are your chief philanthropists, your doers, and your funders oftentimes as well.
I love that. And I think there's so much that goes into creating a really strong board. Number 1, what's their why? What brought them to this? Did someone just tell them, "Hey, this you should join this board?" Or are they really connected to the mission? Or are they really excited to work with other people on the board? Or do they know someone who's on your team? Understand that why and then hone into it. Then look at their skill sets, but then what they actually like to do. So I've been on boards where we had investment bankers. They actually did not wanna be on the finance committee. They were like, "If you put me on the finance committee, I will leave this board and never come back." They actually wanna be on the community events committee because it was
Mm,
something different from their day to day. They were happy to provide advice and use their expertise, but they did not want that to now be their board
role. Yeah.
leadership service. They wanted to do something different. So I think you really have to understand your board and then understand how much time they have. Are they traveling consistently? Are they able to attend regular board meetings? Really being able to see where and how they can show up helps with your overall board dynamic because there's nothing worse than having a board meeting and you've got 5 out of 13. It doesn't work. Also, 13 is a very large number. Please don't make your boards that large. Please keep them keep them just like a nice adequate number. 13 is really like pushing the limits there. Um and then also training. So your board, given your nonprofit, whatever your structure is, your board needs training. They need to know what their role is as a board member. Board members should never have to feel like detectives, that they're like digging to find a problem. They should be your trusted advisors, the people that are conduits to open opportunities for you. Like you said, sometimes they're your chief philanthropist. Like they are actually donating money or they're finding and locating services or space for you. So, really having them understand what their role is tied into how they want to show up in that role. And then, really, that structure is here are our board meetings. Here's the deliverables we need for you. If we have committees, here's the requirement. Because when you have people join a board and there's not that structure of, okay, we have a monthly board meeting, you can miss two or you're out without a verified excuse. You have to serve on a committee or you even have to be on a board a commitment of 3 years. You don't want to start a nonprofit, have a board, and then you lose half your board member in your first year. Because now you are literally trying to keep a new nonprofit going, plus try to train new board members. There's just so much. So, really setting those clear expectations, understanding their why, and really making sure you leverage their experiences and their talent.
And I want to tie it back to one of your first points, which was that empathy and accountability.
Mhm.
How do you see that playing a role within this board relationship between the director and executive team and the board?
Well, absolutely. So the empathy piece is they are on your board because they feel something. They want to be a part of this. And then the accountability is all that structure that you're putting into place for the board. But then that empathy also goes into your team. So understanding that they can support each other. Like we are very lucky to have some incredible board members where they show up in very different ways. We have one board member that you pick up the phone and she's got her and her husband in a trailer and we're loading stuff up to camp. And then she's opening doors for new funders. And then we have another incredible board member that's sourcing like hundreds of water bottles and snacks and all these other items. It's just incredible the way they show up. And then that empathy piece plays into our team because then they start to say, wow, like our board shows up in different ways. And that's great. Instead of saying there's a disconnect, like, oh no, the board is just the board. We just sit there in a meeting and we're quiet. That's where that executive director report comes in. Our team also gets to highlight their work. So sometimes they get a shout out from a board member of like, oh my gosh, our director of donor relations. Wow, you got all these grants this month. And this is amazing. And so I really want there to be that back and forth exchange instead of
It's
having
amazing.
it be so separate from the work that we're all doing.
Do you oftentimes see that you get that deeper buy-in with your board, having them attend the events and be actually doing stuff and having a role within the actual mission and work of your organization?
100%. Grayson, when I say we go to camp, we all go to camp. So we literally like our team alone, our CEO, our vice president, several of our board members, we stay in cabins. We sleep in bunk beds. We
Amazing.
literally live with the camp experience for a week with our youth and teens. And it's incredible because it's one thing to sit in a meeting and hear about it, and it's a whole different thing to experience it firsthand.
In terms of that accountability and that structure side, is there any like tools, technologies that you have used within your role that you think have really enabled your team to be adaptive, to be agile, and to really run smoothly?
Yes, definitely. I think, some software shout outs. So we use Donor Perfect, which has really helped a lot in a lot of our donor relations, really being able to keep tabs on that. We use Casebook now for our client management, especially with Pave Your Way. And then we're looking at a new system because one of my new passion projects for this organization is I like legacy projects. So what's the legacy project I can bring to RennerVation Foundation? It's gonna be the volunteer piece. We have people from not only around the country, but around the globe that want to get involved in the mission. And so we're looking at a new software system to help us really be able to have a more streamlined application process, calendar of events, appreciation, just to really focus on the retention piece. So we're looking into that, but I will not use their name yet because we have not officially moved forward. But I think you should never be afraid of technology. You shouldn't have too many systems, but sometimes you do need a couple systems to be able to do things to a higher level. And so I think, really being able to train the entire team, we believe in cross training. Everyone should be able to know at least a little bit enough to make them dangerous so that if someone is struggling, it's all hands on deck. It's not, well, sorry, I've never worked in that software system. Can't help you. Don't know what to say. Really being able to support each other.
It was amazing, and that's something that we see within our conversations all the time. Is that you have to have that structure and that enablement side because oftentimes we're working with small teams, and it is a all hands on deck moment, but it often maybe feels like that every single day.
Yeah,
So
we're a small but mighty team.
exactly.
And so we need those tools and support systems.
100%. Well, beyond this new program for housing kind of aging out of the system youth, anything on the horizon for the RennerVation Foundation? I know we just wrapped up a real busy period for your organization, but anything else that's on the horizon that you're really excited about?
Oh, I am completely over the moon because we actually have the opportunity as the RennerVation Foundation to lease 4 one-bedroom apartments, and this is a scattered site model. A lot of times they'll do congregate housing where a lot of former foster youth or unhoused youth, they're in a same setting, like an apartment complex, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of times the youth need that extra support, but we have really focused on another opportunity, a gap. And a lot of our youth, once they've exited the foster care system, they've never once gotten to call one place their own. And so we are leasing these one bedroom apartments for starting with 4 of our Pave Your Way clients. And we have partnered with a Sense of Home down in Los Angeles. They are going to come up and fully furnish, fully outfit, decorate based on the actual like lifestyle and likes and dislikes of our clients, and then our small little teams are gonna put these apartments all together and do an unveiling for them, and this is gonna kick off in the fall, and really, this is a push for anyone listening or anyone who knows of a youth with lived experience in the foster care system. They can be from around the country. We are based in Nevada, so these apartments will be in the Washoe County area, but if they wanna relocate and they want to reach out to our organization and find out how they could qualify, we're here. We wanna set you up with jobs and education and a community that you can even go do zombie paintball with. If that's not your vibe, we got yoga. We have pretty much anything, and definitely just making sure that, don't hesitate to refer out to us. That's what we're here for.
And I guess we'll end with if you had a megaphone that you could blast out to one this audience, you mentioned reach out, but also for this nonprofit audience, what would you let them know? It's the uncertain times right now. There's a lot of change happening within our world. What would you kind of say like this is what I would focus on?
For my nonprofit leaders, I would say diversify your funding sources. It is one of the most critical things to focus on. I was a Head Start director. I had $10 million of federal funding with 2 grants. And so I fully believe, love the Head Start program, but what I'm very much enjoying at RennerVation Foundation is the opportunity to diversify. So we can go after federal and state, we can do private, we can do local, we can do sponsorships, we can do events. So really as a nonprofit leader, diversify your funding. And it seems daunting, but it can be the game changer beyond survival and the opportunity to thrive in this ever changing economy. And then for all of my listeners out there that are not nonprofit leaders, but just have felt inspired by the mission and the work that we do, I think back to my mom and her lesson. So if you can donate, you can visit our website, you can donate, you can sponsor a camper, you can help us put on Christmas on the Comstock for our very deserving over 600 foster youth, teens, and adults and their families, or you can donate time. So there is always a way to give back if you feel compelled by the mission, and even just sharing our foundation so other people are aware of the work that we're doing out here. And if you want to collaborate, I'm here too. So really those would be my messages for this incredible audience.
Amazing. Valeria, thank you so much for coming on. Valeria is the executive director of the RennerVation Foundation, and they're doing absolutely amazing work out there in Nevada and through that for the foster youth across the United States. Their Pave Your Way uh, new program is developing amazing housing for youth that are aging out of the foster system. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing a little more about your work and your background. And I hope that our audience enjoyed the conversation. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.